Hello guys, Lit here. So yesterday I do a polling on my channel. I'm asking people whether I should start a Reliquarian or Ascendance, and majority of people seems want me to start a Reliquarian, so I will start Reliquarians, and I work out the POP. So I basically adjust the number on the Ascendance, and I have to make bunch of like custom modifier to simulate the number on the Reliquarians because the class doesn't exist. So I will not have anything to showcase, but we can use the Ascendant versions as the point of reference because this is still the same build, and we can better understand the number on the POP by using the Ascendants as the reference. So with that said, let's just move into the POB. On the POB, you will still see the same loadout. We have day 1 to day 3, mid budget, high budget with mageblood, and also high budget with headhunter. And the next one is on the configurations. You can see on the bottom here, this is bunch of custom modifier, and this is from the Brastrom. And we have 4 skill point, and this is the difference between Ascendance and Reliquary. If you see on the Ascendance, you will get attribute and skill point. We get attribute and skill point. So we only have 2 skill point from the Ascendancy, but on the Reliquarians, we're not going to have the attributes. In exchange for that, we get 2 skill point. So that's the reason why you see 4 skill point over here. We basically have 2 extra skill point compared to Ascendant. And the second one is the movement speed and frenzy charge on critical strike. This is a terminal edge. And the frenzy charge on critical strike doesn't really work on POP because I just need to turn the frenzy on the POB. But just know how we generate the frenzy charges is via the terminal edge node, which is you can frenzy charges on critical strike. And we also have the level 3 Purity of Element skill. This is from Tier of Purity on the Reliquarians. And the Purity element will have 100% increased mana reservations. And this doesn't mean the Purity of Element will not reserve any mana. It means the Purity of Element will reserve half of the mana. So 100% increased mana reservations, meaning your Purity of Elements only reserve 25% of mana instead of 50%. So that's on the custom modifier on the configurations. So you guys know what all these custom modifiers are. And another difference between Ascendants and Reliquarians is this line over here. This is from Brastrom. The strength provides no bonus to maximum life. This is going to be problematic on the mid budget because we are kind of tight on everything, and I do not want to put too high of a budget on mid budget because it's a mid budget. So with that said, let's go to it. On the day 1 versions, so the main difference between this one and Ascendance is number 1, the armor. We're going to have a little bit more armor, and on the resistance side, we're going to have more maximum resistance because of the Brastrom. And we also take no extra damage from critical strike, so with the map mod that said monster have critical strike chance and monster have crit multi, that mod basically do nothing for us because of the Brastrom node. And other than that, this is still basically the same. We still more or less have the same amount of DPS, and we actually have a little bit leeway on the skill point because of the skill point extra on the Reliquarians. You can use that on here, this 2 point over here, if you need more resistance, because this node gives you 10% all remaining resistance. This is going to make it easier to cap your resistance. And on the attack mastery, we can also take +3 to get a little bit more AoE. And if you already have your resistance and you don't really care about the AoE, we can actually go for the all maximum resistance, which is going to give you more maximum resistance. I don't think it's necessary, but if you want to go that route, that's also possible. As for the skill itself, because we have Purity of Element, and the Purity of Element is reserving less mana, we able to squeeze in Herald Purity here. Now Herald Purity going to give us a little bit more damage. That's kind of compensate for the loss of DPS because of the on the Ascendance node. And we also have extra DPS because of the frenzy charges. On the Ascendant version, I do not turn this on because you're only going to have your frenzy charges on the mapping versions because we're using Blood Rage. But when we come on the single target, you're not going to have Frenzy. But on the Reliquarian versions, because we generate Frenzy charges by critical, we're always going to have the Frenzy charges. So that's kind of compensate for the damage, and we end up having around the same amount of damage, but better defense. So on the day 1 to day 3, Reliquarian is actually better. So this is the day 1 to day 3. And the items is still basically the same item that I use on the Ascendants. This is just a bunch of items I found on the maps, on the campaign, and also from the Fosters. And now let's move into the mid-budget. And mid-budget is the point where Reliquarian kind of getting punished. And this is come down to accuracy. In the Ascendant versions, we do still have to take a lot of accuracy node, but we're able to take Saboteur, which reduce our need for accuracy, because if you for example, like if I take this two node down, we are going down to 98%. If you Ascendants, you have blind, and that's basically make up for it, right? So we don't have to take that much accuracy node on Ascendants, and also the Ascendants also give damage, which on mid budget we're not really able to compensate, because I do not want to put too much budget on mid budget because it is a mid budget. And when you see on the DPS, we are a little bit less DPS than the Ascendant versions, but if you see on the live, on the Reliquarian we only have 4,000 life. In Ascendant, I believe we have 4,600 life. And that 600 life is basically the effect of this node over here. The strength provide no bonus for maximum life. And on the mid budget, I cannot just tattoo the strength because it is a mid budget. So all this strength node is basically give us no life at all. And this is quite punishing on mid budget because we're not really able to utilize the strength node to something else. While on high budget, we can tattoo the strength node. So the downside of the strength provide no life is not that big of a deal. But on mid budget, this result in minus 600 life. And 600 life is quite a lot of life. But the upside is, because we are Reliquarians, we have a lot more armor. And we also have a bigger maximum resistance. So that kind of compensates for the defense. You have less life, but you have more damage reductions. And also the take on extra damage from crit node is still always a nice addition. So my guess is we're probably going to be a little bit squeezed here, especially also because we don't have the this node over here, which is going to make your life leech not removed when you unreach of life. So it kind of give and take, but I will expect this a little bit weaker on the mid budget, but not too much. And one more thing that I forgot to mention earlier, if you see on the Yoke of Suffering over here, you see the Yoke of Suffering have grand level 30 Purity of Element skills. And on the low budget, it's the same thing. On the necklace, you're going to see the necklace have the grand level 30 Purity of skill. This is from the Reliquarians, and the reason why I custom it on the necklace, because if I'm not doing that, it will show on the POB that we'll need more intelligence than the actual reality. For example, like on the mid budget, if we only have 116 intelligence, level 30 purity of elements in the POB, it will need 128 if I'm not wrong. And the only way to bypass that attribute requirement is to put this on the items. And I do test this with the High Truth on the actual character in-game. High Truth give level 30 precision, and that precision doesn't have attribute requirement. So even if I do not have 152 dexterity, because that is the attribute requirement for level 30 precisions, I still able to use that precision because it granted from the items. So it kind of bypassed the attribute requirements. So this is the reason why you're going to see this mod on the necklace. And on the mid-budget versions, we are still using Period of Element. So we can just use a boost like this, which is a lot easier to craft than Shock Avoidant boots. And we don't need Storm's Route, so it's a lot cheaper to swap to LA on the Reliquarians. But on the other stuff, like the helmet and the body armor, is basically still the same. And for the mid-budget versions, on the helmet section, I do put the mana reservation efficiency on the limit, on the implicit. This will need lesser Ichor. You don't really have to. The reason why I'm putting that because of the reservations on the next league. The generic rate here is 15%, next league it will be 20. And I believe we're going to left with something around like 60 to 70 mana, which is basically enough to cast the Assassin Mark. On this one, I do put it on life tab, but if you're not putting on life tab, we still have enough mana to do it. So there is two options. The first one, you can put life tab here and it will cost life, or you can put mana reservation on your helmet, and that means you don't need life tab on your Assassin Mark, but it's a lot easier to fit in the gems. As for the day one version, the day one versions, because we have a lot of free socket, we can actually life tap on the Assassin Mark and we'll be fine for the mana cost, because the only skill that need high mana cost is Assassin Mark. The Modern Shell is lower level. This only costs a few mana. If we check over here, the Modern Shell only costs like 22 mana. So it's not that big of a deal. But on the Assassin Mark, you do want to have life tap here. because Assassin Mark going to cost something like around 60 mana, which is pretty expensive. So that's basically about the mid-budget versions. And on the higher budget versions, on the mageblood versions, we actually able to surpass the damage of Ascendance. And this is because we have extra point. I play around with it and we actually able to surpass the DPS by a little bit, not that much. It's like a million more. I mean, at this point, a million more doesn't really mean a lot. And the reason why we can do this because I changed few things on the flask. So on the Sapphire flask, you will need avoid being shocked here. And that's make us do not have to make avoidant boots. And this boots is a lot easier to make because we just need the dexterity. And the difference between this one and the one on the video is the implicit. The implicit, we are looking for the damage per endurance charges, and we're looking for 5% damage as extra fire. And we can, and the 5% damage per endurance charges on the Ascendant versions, this will be the avoid being shocked. But since we do not need the avoid being shocked anymore, we can put in some damage not on the implicit, which is 5% increased damage per endurance charges. And we have 6 endurance charges here, so this is like 30% increased damage. And on the other side, I think on the Ascendant version, I go for the cooldown recovery for General Cry. The physical damage extra fire is a little bit better DPS, but if you want to go for the CDR for the General Cry, that also not that bad. The cooldown recovery, I think, is the difference is like 2% DPS. It's not that big of a deal. And another thing, the difference here is the chest. Because we already have the Frenzy charges, from the Terminal S, we don't really need to go for Influence Chest. Now, the consequence of this is, now the Cyclone still going to cost you mana. For me personally, I don't really care. The Socket Attack minus mana cost for me is more of quality of life. It's not really necessary. So that's why I'm not going for Influence Chest. And this chest is a lot easier to make compared to Influence Chest. And because we have the Brass Dome node that armor from body armor is double, we actually able to take advantage of it by using non-influence chests. Because this way we can actually try to get the triple T1 armor. You're probably going to craft this start from like the hybrid fracture, and that will make it easier to hit like a T1 flat and a T1 percentage armor. I will make a video about this when we get there. When I craft this chest, because on the crafting video I don't think I include this one. So on the implicit we can go for the crit multi and hatred, increase our effect, because on the high budget we are using hatred, we're not using herald anymore, and this basically help us to compensate for the DPS loss from the ascendants. And another item that are different is also this one. This is more like a classic comfort glove on the end game. This have a 50% increased damage with hits against chill enemy, and this is a temple mod, and you will need to find this one fracture. The base is going to be expensive, and there is 3 mod that's similar to this. This is hit against chill enemy. There's another one against ignite enemy, and also another one against shock enemy. You actually can use 3 of them, and you can use resistance change on Harvest Craft. When you change the cold resistance into fire resistance, the extra mod also will change. In a sense, we can also buy the other mods and we can convert them into chill mod, and then we can try to fracture it. But the bottom line is the base is going to be more expensive, but it's 50% increased damage because we need DPS on the Reliquarians. So this is going to make the glove more expensive than the Ascendants. And other than that, all the items is basically the same. And for the unique items, Storm Shroud, Transcendent Flash, Thread of Hope. This is 3 unique items that if you can get the one with the corruption that have reservation efficiency of skill, I would advise go for that. And the reason for that one is because we have 153 here, and based on my calculation, we're going to left with like 110 after the nerf on the General Cry. And the Assassin Mark will cost you around 58 mana. Having more mana available will make life a lot easier. So for the Transcendent Flash, this jewel is pretty common, so I don't think the increased version will be expensive. The same for the Thread of Hope. This one is the massive one. This one dropped from the Uber series. Early in the league, this is going to be quite expensive, but the price is going to go down by quite a lot because this jewel with the massive ring, it drops very often. So we're going to have a lot of supply. Either you corrupt it yourself or you find the one that already have the corruptions. I don't think the Thread of Hope with massive ring going to be expensive either. Also for the minus resistance, we don't really care about the minus resistance. If you see on the resistance side, we have way more than we need. You can go for like the minus 20%, which is the worst roll, and we're still going to be fine with the resistance. So that's going to make the Thread of Hope with reservation a lot cheaper. And for the Unnatural Instinct, this one going to be expensive no matter what you do because of the Corrupted Blood immunity. Now you can kind of find the Corrupted Blood on the like Thread of Hope or Transit of Flesh. That's probably also going to work, but then you're going to need Unnatural Instinct with Reservation, which I think not Unnatural Instinct with Reservation's Corruption is more expensive than Unnatural Instinct with Corrupted Blood Corruptions. So you have to adjust based on the price. So either you corrupt it yourself or you find the one that already have a corruptions. And for the Ritter Pride, I find the one that have life on it. So this is double damage, and life. There's only one variant of this. So if I put this one here, the one that have 2 double damage and 1 life, there's only one variant of this. But if you only look for 2 double damage, there's actually a lot. So I don't think the Ritter Pride is going to be expensive either. You can find something else, for example, like maximum fortifications, plus 145. And we can also look for melee crit multi. This gives you a little bit more DPS. Melee damage also gives you a little bit more DPS. Fist as extra fight, this also gives you a little bit more DPS. So there's a plenty to choose here. And the reason why I go for life because, the life is kind of sad, 4.3. So I want a little bit more life. But you definitely can go for other mods. So for the high budget versions, Ascendants and Reliquarians, I will say that Reliquarian is better because of this one line over here. Takes no extra damage from critical strike. This is very, very nice for mapping. And also, because we have plus 3 maximum rest, we have 90 max rest, which is going to help when you go to bossing. But I don't think you're going to be tanky enough to face tank the boss. So you still have to do the mechanic. So I think that's it for the Reliquarian's Cyclone. And I will link start this one. So if you also link start this, you can follow my progressions. So you can expect build update from me. Whenever I do LA swap or like maybe day 1 to day 3, maybe day 1 and day 3 I will make an update for it. I should be able to swap to mid budget on day 3, probably before that. So every time I make a changes on the build, I will make a build update for it so you guys can follow along. And as usual, if you guys have any questions about the build, you can ask in the comment below. I will try my best to answer it. And once again, thank you everyone for watching. I really, really appreciate it. Good luck everyone for the league start. I hope all of you have a good league start. And I will see you on the next one.